by Gary. Welcome everybody to the Creed of Crypto live stream. I am Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We got people in the chat already. Scrubhead, I love it. Brizology, welcome in, Briz. Degen Moonboy, of course. Robert Online, somebody named Creed of Crypto. We have a whole bunch of people checking into the chat here tonight. So welcome in. A disclaimer that I will say right now. We had Brother KG from Internet Money on our thumbnail and in the title for a little while today. I think he got caught up with the scheduling thing. We're going to try to work that out. And if he doesn't show up here tonight, we're going to try to get him on next week. He, of course, along with Rags, Brandon Davis, Gary Woods, Funding Jim, with the big Monect initiative right now for crypto. And we really wanted to have one of them on to discuss that. So we'll see when we can round up KG, but no worries there. We do have a big show because there's a lot of bullish things happening in the world of cryptocurrency right now, including something that happened about a half hour ago that we're going to talk about. So that is going to be very interesting indeed. Hit us up in the chat if you are here and you've never been here before, or if you're here and you're here every single week. Do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ewok, a lot of bullish things happening over maybe even the next 24 hours. How you feeling about all this?
Pretty excited. That ETF thing came out of nowhere. You know, we've got some political stuff happening. Pretty exciting. Markets are still kind of steady on the PulseChain front, but it's kind of what we expected. And there's something I want to bring up later when we do talk about those prices that maybe we've overthought or not thought about enough. Yeah, that'll be good. Good conversation too. But yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty good, man.
All right, yeah, me too. A lot of good stuff coming up for sure. Yeah, the big story is obviously ETH. So let's cut right to the chase. So looking at BTC and ETH, Bitcoin has kind of come back up slowly over the last couple of days. It sits a little over 69K right now. It's been around that 70K marker. But Ethereum, obviously the big dog. This is what we've been waiting for some time. We have Ben Cohen and all these other people that are Bitcoin maxis on Twitter all the time talking about this is finally the death of Ethereum. I don't know if he's ever actually said that, but he talks about Bitcoin dominance all the time. But, yes, potentially the news that the SEC is asking all these entities to file the proper paperwork to get ready for an ETH ETF is extremely bullish. Obviously, it was a catalyst here in the short term for the ETH price action. We have seen Ethereum close the gap on BTC to a somewhat respectable number finally after it's been just basically dog crap for weeks now. So yeah, it's very good to see this. We're going to talk about, fundamentally what this will mean with the ETH ETF and where we're going from there, as well as looking at the price. Basically, the odds on the ETF being approved after all this recent news jumped from 25 to 75%. We had discussions, and I understand anybody who would be skeptical of this or suspect of this news when they first hear it, because we don't, usually trust our government anyway, and, maybe it's too good to be true. But we are now seeing, and again, we'll talk about this from a price perspective and fundamental, but I think what we're seeing here basically is a Democratic Party who is pulling out all the stops to, win an election. And, the SEC is going to be part of that right now. Obviously, Gary Gensler is a Democrat. They want him in there kind of as their mouthpiece and everything. So I think that, this is purely a political move. And I think, if the Democrats would happen to win the election in November, we would see kind of back to normal as far as policy goes. But what do you make? I'll let you take wherever you want to first, Ewok. If you want to look at price, ETH closing the gap, whatever you want to do, but also just fundamentally what your thoughts are about this huge, like you said, total curveball out of nowhere. If you tell me that you thought this was going to happen now, I'll call you a liar. Most people were waiting for the one that was coming in August for an ETH ETF, but now we sit here 24 hours away, sometime tomorrow, of when the original deadline is. So what do you make of all this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I still have the lines from the last week when we talked about it. I said, this channel that would probably fall into August sometime before it made a run up. Well, it decided back here that it was about to take off and break right out of there. So yeah, you don't have to call me a liar. I didn't expect it at all. Right. And the funny thing is, they kind of pulled the same thing with Bitcoin when it first launched that ETF. there were a lot of people that speculated that it would be passed. And remember all the FUD, somebody hacked the Twitter and of the SEC and said it was passed. And then all of a sudden, 30 minutes later, they said, nope, sorry, that's not true. There was just a lot of weird things that happened. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But, you know, while things are looking bullish, they could still say no again. And I think you'll see this come back down into that channel if that happens. So we obviously need to kind of prepare for that and not get ourselves over leveraged. Please don't set a long right now on Ethereum, because that could be a mistake, especially if something like that did happen and it goes back down and you get liquidated immediately. So that's
now your statement begs this: what if you bought 170,000 ETH right now? Would you do that at this price level right now?
So that's absolutely not.
Okay.
Your statement begs this: what if you bought
What happened?
Whoa, I don't know. I'm hearing myself in the background here.
Yeah,
You must have unmuted me or something, or unmuted the stream in your background.
Oh, it popped up on my phone. That's crazy.
Okay, yeah, that totally free. I couldn't tell it was my voice or not at first. That was very crazy. But it's a joke, obviously, there. As far as aping into ETH right now.
Yeah, no, it's not wouldn't be advised to set a long, no matter what the situation is, just in case things do go sideways or they do push it back to the next one because things aren't quite ready or whatever reason there may be. You know, we do look at this Bitcoin price. It really didn't have the kind of move. Usually these things move together, but this was clearly a Ethereum only type play. And I don't know if you saw Richard Hart's tweet yesterday about the actual amount of ETH that is really out there for sale. You know, if somebody were to purchase, let me pull it up, because you know the way it said is if somebody were to actually purchase $100 million of ETH right now, that they would be in it for about $5,400 per ETH on Uniswap, 4,600 on 1inch, and apparently there's other places where you can get it for 4.2. Well, you know, that's still at least $500 over spot price. You know, if you have smaller amounts, just because of the slippage and the amount available for sale, that's how much you would push it against yourself. So pretty interesting statistic there.
Yeah.
But again, you know, I hate getting ahead of ourselves and until it's actually passed and through, although a lot of these places have added the symbols, the tickers and everything like that to their pages. So it is looking good for now.
It is definitely looking good. Yeah. And, you know, we talked about I was referencing obviously the SAC wallet buying all that ETH at right about this price, basically, a couple of months ago or something at this point. You know,
I think that wallet is back in profit now, finally.
Or basically even at the moment. Yeah. So, and again, I mean, I guess if you have that much money sitting there, the exact price you buy at may not necessarily matter if, you know, you're really anticipating something like this happening. So, and we just saw it. And I will say, like, not to, you know, victory lap it, or, you know, hindsight's obviously 2020, but like, obviously it would have been like, hey, ETH just ran, you know, green for month and month. Why not wait till it goes down a little bit more? But then all of a sudden we do see, like, again, we just said it. Nobody thought that this was going to be approved here in May. Still hasn't, but it's starting to look likely. This shows you that these things can turn on a dime. So, you know, everybody that's laughed for the last 60 days or whatever at that buy, you know, isn't also, you know, in control of that much money themselves, I imagine. So, I mean, we'll see how that story kind of goes from here. But yeah, talking about the SEC doing a 180 on this, you know, politically, I mean, like, we've seen, and I don't want to get way too deep on the weeds on this, but we've seen, you know, the Dems, the SEC suddenly start to sweet talk crypto a little bit here. I don't know that Biden knows what it is or anything, but we see Trump all of a sudden saying that he is taking campaign donations in like 6 different tokens or something like that. Yeah, he fired back the next day saying he's accepting crypto donations. They're both kind of jockeying for position here on crypto issues. this is good for all of us. I mean, like,
Sure.
I don't care really about either of these entities all that much at all. Obviously, viewers could probably guess where we're going to vote this November, but if we were down to those two parties, but the sad thing is, I think with the Democrats, obviously, you're seeing like a lot of total posturing, and they don't plan on really, behaving like this going forward. Trump, I don't know necessarily how much he really cares about crypto. I think it's one of those things where he takes the stance because he knows his supporters will be happy about it. That said, I don't think he's a direct detriment like the Democrats have been. So, yeah, what do you kind of make of that, if you care about that, I guess?
Well, no, and it doesn't really. I mean, we talked about it last week. The way Trump basically said, "Listen, I'm all for it as long as it's safe." I think he kind of wants what we want, right? We want regulation. We want someone to make a decision on what is a security, what is a commodity. Do they even have the right to determine that, or should it be something else? And I think just clarity. I think that's the biggest thing that we need. Well, the Democrat side seems to not want to give that because they want to use it against people to keep extorting money every 8 months and say, well, why don't you just pay us a fine and we won't press these charges, and you can keep doing business, but you did it wrong, kind of thing, because there's no clarity. So, I think that's the biggest difference that we'll see between the two, where one doesn't want to determine anything, the other one wants to basically say, all right, here's how we're going to do it, and this is what we're going to decide on, who gets to govern it, and what is what. So that's more exciting than anything.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. And I tell you what, it leads us into this, and then we'll kind of get into the PulseChain side of things. But so right before we went on the air, so we also had this FIT 21 bill that just passed in the House of Representatives, which I think may have been expected since it is obviously a Republican House. But this is the significant thing about this is that 71 Democrats joined Republicans in this vote, which is a significant number. Now, it still has to go on to the Senate. And the FIT 21 bill, and I'm not going to pretend I knew this thing inside and out, but I knew a little bit about it. It is basically to establish that we need some kind of crypto regulation, that the SEC are not going to be the ones to do it. And it's basically a repudiation of Gary Gensler, which, is huge, obviously. So for this to pass right now, it was 279 to 136 against 71 Democrats, which is very significant.
Yeah.
So, with this now going to the Senate and this being such a blowout vote, this looks really good. And, you wonder if the jig is finally up for Gary. I mean, we've been talking about it for 2 years, probably plus now at this point. And the Democrats, we know, I mean, no politician is afraid to hang somebody. And I only mean that figuratively, ladies and gentlemen. But we know that there will, if there's somebody that needs to take the hit for them, that politically, that they will do that. So Gary could be a fall guy here. So yeah, what do you make of this? I mean, this is, again, just super bullish as well. It seems like the Dems, I'm just impressed with how big of an issue crypto seems to be becoming. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm just looking down the list of the Democrats that voted yes, and Pelosi was one of them. I'm just kind of surprised by some of these names. I'm not overly familiar with a lot of the, the people that aren't as popular or aren't as talked about. She's the only one that really stands out to me. But, we always wonder how much of this stuff is political theater. What are they doing? And I think you're right. I think a lot of it is just for show. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything that is really surprising anybody. It can pass and then still go to the Senate and lose. But it looks like they're saying, well, yeah, because we're on your side. You know what I mean?
Right.
See, because we voted here and you can trust us, that type of thing. I think that's what we're seeing. But yeah, it does. It still has a long way to go. I don't know a whole lot about it. I did see something I was telling you before we started online yesterday saying, this is really important. We need this vote. And there was a form type thing where you just put your name in and it emails, depending on your zip code, it emails your representative for you saying, hey, please vote yes on this vote tomorrow, because, crypto it just basically helps strengthen crypto as a technology sector, providing development and things like that with jobs and growth, and let's not shut it down and become a third world country that won't support it. So so I did that yesterday, but that's really the first I had heard about it. Then I kind of forgot after I did that until you just mentioned before we came on that they passed it, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because I emailed yesterday the representative. So yeah, no, it's pretty cool. But again, the Democratic side with the support, I think it's partial political theater. I think that's what we're seeing.
I think so too. Like I said, I mean, if Biden would unfortunately be reelected, I mean, we know that they're not going to continue in this direction or anything like that. But
right,
it's very interesting to say the least. Really, again, continued bullish stuff, and I think 2024 is going to continue to be a big year for crypto. Something that I saw Sami tweet a couple of times relative to. So when the Bitcoin ETF got passed, Bitcoin rallied 90%, and he's been I don't know that he's speculating this will happen, but just as a thought experiment for Ethereum, that would put it at over $7,000. So I put it like $7,200. So that would be bullish for everyone. I mean, I can't think of someone who that wouldn't benefit. Bitcoin maxis, I guess, and then all of us would be good. So
sure. And back to what I was saying, there isn't much liquidity. So I mean, if there is that kind of massive buy-in, obviously we know these guys are buying now, little chunks at a time, and trying to get as much as they can before it actually happens. But, there's still going to be some massive buys that probably weren't allowed before before it passes. So they're playing by the rules. Some are not playing by the rules and buying it ahead of time just to have it. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see a $8,000 Ethereum. That'd be a nice little takeoff to our bull market.
It definitely would, especially since some people, modestly think that 8K could be the bull market top for ETH, or maybe 10K. So, I mean, that would get us certainly pretty close. So, bullish all around. Really, really excited to see this stuff. So, we'll continue to monitor these stories. I mean, literally tomorrow is when we're expecting the ETF approval. So, we'll see what does happen there. Let's take a look at the PulseChain ecosystem here. We'll take a look at the prices, maybe just pull up the Pulse chart here in a moment. PulseChain hasn't really seen yet, and of course this is just very short term, last day, but hasn't been the beneficiary of this ETH news all that much at all yet. But we got Pulse sitting at 48% below the SAC rate, 4 zeros and a 5.2. Pulse X, we're at 4 zeros 2.3. Incentive token is down below $3 now, 2.88. Hex really seemed to have taken a hit here. I think it's down to 0.007, and then eHex, if I'm allowed to report on it, is at 0.017. So it's held up pretty nicely, probably because it was decimated so badly already. So, yeah, what do you make of where we are there? And if you wanted to, wherever you want to go and whatever you want to pull up here.
Yeah, so I think that eHex ratio was at almost 1-8 or 1-9.
Yeah.
At one point, it's closed back to like 4-1 now again.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's bullish. Something that I wanted to bring up and think about a little bit more is, maybe, and I forget who, somebody did mention it, and I forget who it was, or I'd give them credit for it. But a lot of the main sacrificers for PulseChain, the big ones, all got between 2.5 and 1.75x multipliers on the large cap investors. And we've been looking at this price at, that 0.3 zeros and a 1 for the longest time. But I'm thinking that we may want to reframe that, because honestly, the 4 zeros and a 5 with that 2x average multiplier should probably technically be the SAC rate instead of the
people.
Yeah, for a lot of people. I mean, average anyway, because like I said, it went all the way up to 2.5 x, and the large buyers got in anywhere from 2.5 to probably 1.75 x on the return. So the average probably puts that right at, this number, right where we're at. So, I just wonder your thoughts on, are we framing it the wrong way, and did we have too much expectations initially that was the sack price because, for, dollar for points anyway, that's technically what it was. However, without that multiplier, without that bonus, and with it, it becomes half of that. So you know,
Now, it sounds like you're moving the goalpost here a little bit, if I may say so myself. No, I get where you're coming from, and it is interesting that we've always just kind of said sacrifice rate for 0001 when that isn't actually true for every
right.
every sacrifice that occurred. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and to your point, that 4 zeros and a 5. I mean, that has served as pretty obvious support here over the last few weeks that we've come down here. I mean, even the other day, today wasn't so great. We saw some, downward price action, but even I can't even keep my days straight anymore. But the other day, it dipped just below that 5 number.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been serving as new support. So yeah, I definitely think there's something to that. Yeah.
Well, there is a lot of support in this area. There was resistance, all the way over here, until it finally kind of broke through it a little bit. But
yeah,
we're not holding our old line of growth very much. That's why I just left this on here, because we kind of drew it back here when we saw this steady rise, hoping that we could continue that rate. But and then I thought about it. I'm like, well, maybe we're overshooting it. And then the real reason kind of came out today, and I don't know if you saw it or not. There was several people that didn't even really want anyone reporting on it because they didn't want to FUD anything. But there's been a massive seller, just dumping a lot, and they've been doing it in a really shady way because it hasn't been catching anybody that's been watching the blockchain, because they've been sending it over to MetaMask on the Ethereum side and selling it that way on MetaMask, not using a...
Oh man, so MetaMask swap, you mean? Like just their feature? Oh man. So they're eating a lot of money. I mean, they're
eating a lot of money, but for the privacy of not showing up on the PulseChain side for sells. So yeah, I mean, there's like 100 million, or 100 million a day. No, maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was 1 billion a day. I forget what the number was, but the guy had like 400 billion PulseChain, and I think they're only down to, I don't even know what it is now, but look into it if you want. But there's been a major seller that I think that has caused almost every one of these red candles, just kind of doing it in a shady way. But the reason people haven't really been, there's a few that out there that know about it. The reason they didn't report on it is because they didn't want to cause FUD. The guy had a lot, and he was apparently doing okay. So he had 100 billion left. Mr. Sojourner says, I don't know how many he started with, but anyway,
he's out of most of it, I believe.
Right. Yeah. So almost out. So if that becomes our last heavy hitter as a major seller that's just been consistently dumping every day or every couple days, that's also bullish. So
yeah, it is. And that's why I agree with you on we don't want to, don't report on it. It's on the blockchain. I mean, it's on the blockchain. It's going to be out there. This whole censoring thing and stuff from anybody is just never the way to go. I understand it, but you just can't, I mean, look at people in life, look at people in different sorts of media and things that try to censor things like that. I mean, there are ways of framing different things. Just, frame it the correct way. And the correct way is like, hey, at least we can see all this on the blockchain. And we know how much we know everything practically. Right. We know everything the guy holds. They even found out where he's selling it and stuff like that he's eating all these fees from slippage and MetaMask swap and stuff like that. These other chains, Solana, I'm just naming the big ones, but other big VC backed chains. Again, we talk about this all the time. And this is what, I don't think some people understand with PulseChain. And yeah, it sucks the prices are down. Yeah, some of the times the volatility sucks and stuff like that. But also, there aren't all these mega VCs that bought at prices that we were never aware of. Like Ewok and I and all of you watching had the ability, whether you did it or not, to buy the lows on PulseChain back in whatever it was, August, maybe last year, September. I'm not sure.
Right.
But we all had that chance. Like there was a time when PulseX had 5 zeros in front of it that we were buying. Okay. Yeah. So
Yep.
did you do it or not? You know, I mean, we had a chance to. Like we bought the bottom, you know.
Better than anybody did for sacrifice. At least that opportunity's been there. And I don't think it was Rockham. So that wallet is pretty well known, and there's been a lot of eyes on it. So I don't think it's him, or
maybe it was Anus. Maybe it was Anus Alex or whatever other butt alliteration we want to give anybody. Because we did have Alex the Whale, if anybody remembers that whole saga.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I don't think that guy started with 500 billion though.
No, and it was Hex, I believe. So
yeah.
Okay. So so interesting. I mean, yeah, so I guess to finish this off, like just looking at the chart anyway, I mean, I'm hoping that we continue obviously to hold this area as support, and I'd like us to go up someday. Whenever that may be. But man, we could be in for some volatility here. I mean, we really could be, and hopefully to the upside. I mean, if this ETH thing does go through, and that, you would, again, that should be bullish for the entire crypto industry, like across the board. So,
well, a lot of people forget that most of our value is tied and bridged over from Ethereum. So the better the Ethereum price does, the better it holds the value of the bridged in assets from the Ethereum chain. It will correlate directly to the price over here. So, this, I hate saying it because I think we said it back here, and back here might be the last call to get good prices coming up soon. And if you haven't started DCAing, I'm not sure what you're waiting for at this point. If you haven't quite finished, well, you might want to and save a little just in case, but probably a good time to deploy some capital, because I think good things are definitely in our future here within the next couple months anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we're not even a 2x off the lows for PulseChain right now. So I mean, you're buying about, I don't know, 1.7x off the low or something like that at the moment. Alaska Fisherman, he says, I wish I bought the bottom but had no dry powder. Been buying lately, though it feels good to get at these prices. Yeah, and I my comments certainly weren't like, oh, if you didn't buy it, it's your fault. I mean, I understand you need to be liquid also to buy it. My point was more so just that we had that opportunity, even like in other chains, that never was available to you. Like a lot of them have these VC insider rounds, bought at fractions of a penny that the open market never had access to. So, kudos to you though for DCAing hard at this point. So,
bring this up too. Hexgirl brings up a good point. 9inch has that dollar cost average option to help you dollar cost average in to the market. So don't forget about that nice little tool that they launched.
Yeah. Hexy Bastard was talking about that last week. So good stuff for sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are on PulseChain prices. Very active chat tonight. I'm really enjoying it. You can feel things just feel bullish right now. So we appreciate all you guys being here. If you're enjoying the stream so far, please do us a favor, hit the like button, help support PulseChain, help support Real DeFi and our channel. We really appreciate it. We've been doing this now for, it'll be 3 years in September. It was off and on back at the beginning, but we've been very consistent for a couple of years here now. So let's get into this. I'm trying to see what the best thing to go to is. So Richard Hart, we have to talk about this tweet the other day. So it's been a long story about Richard Hart and his relationship with centralized exchanges, what he thinks, whether they are good for products he has commissioned or good in general. We had the big initiative with MEXC, which is apparently a top 10 crypto exchange worldwide, that great guys like Crypto Coffee, I honestly forget who else. I know he was spearheading it anyway. We're kind of rallying together to try to get a Pulse listing on there and raise the money to do it. And I believe they did. I kind of forget where that last was. But I found this really intriguing, and I sent you his tweet if you wanted to bring it up in a moment here, Ewok. But so he tweeted the other day, surprisingly. Now, he didn't say this directly, so I'm not going to pretend that he did. But tweeting about Kraken and Binance, which this is true, just on May the 20th, both of them conveniently asked for people, anybody in the public, you, if you want to go on there on that day to request token listings. So whatever it is you would like to be on their listing to buy. Kraken, which is an exchange I am a fan of, and is a lot less. Oh, I don't know what word I want to use. I'm not going to say one word that I think may get us demonetized, but I think they're not as stringent and delusional, I will say, as Binance. Binance also has been co-opted now. So, I mean, we know CZ is gone. So now it's kind of like a government boy in there or something. So
Right.
Kraken, the last I knew, still has, what's his name? Jesse, I think it is, somebody in charge, and he's a cool dude. But anyway,
Jesse Powell.
yes. So we'll get into this more specifically, but Kraken basically is much more lax on what they're looking like. Hey, if you want it, we want to sell it to you and make money too. So tell us about it. Binance was far more like, well, these, they don't want where there's like a way smaller circulating supply than what the actual amount is, and they're turned off by stuff like that. Not only that, but their form to fill it out was just way more meticulous than Kraken. So we'll get to that part in a moment. Looking at his actual tweet, which I'll bring up too so I can actually read it here, is Kraken and Binance, he says, both posted today that they want to list more coins, and it seems they want you to fill out the form, and he gives links to both. With RH, you always have to read between the lines, so it's like, hey, what tokens do you think he's talking about that you may want to fill out? So
All right.
I guess what I find confusing, interesting, I don't know about this, is how he went out of his way actually to, I don't want to say a tirade, but he like made a pretty big tweet shitting entirely on exchange listings. Whatever, 30, 60 days ago when the MEXC stuff was at its height, a lot of people were really putting in a good effort to do it. And RH, he didn't directly say anything about MEXC or anybody trying to, those efforts, but he threw cold water entirely on exchanges and just said that they were horrible. And now we see this. So I don't know. Am I reading it into it too much? Because it seems pretty obvious that he's saying, if you want to try to get Pulse listed, then do it. So
I think the big thing with MEXC is most Americans couldn't use it anyway. Now I realize that, there's a lot of people from all over the globe that do invest in crypto, but I think he wanted it to be as inclusive as possible. That's how I read between the lines. And if you're going to spend that kind of money to get it listed, let's do it and cover kind of everybody and not have to have multiple ones of these. Now, eventually, yeah, that would be great. But, Kraken is pretty much available in, as far as I know, all over the place.
yeah.
Binance has, they have the Binance US, and then they have their Binance, the rest of the global platform that they have. But again, I think Binance is a lot more strict on what they'll be willing to accept. Again, this isn't just to fill out a form and then they'll decide and say, well, we got a bunch of votes for PulseChain, let's just list it.
Right.
I do believe there is still a fee. There's a listing fee. You have to provide liquidity or give them liquidity to provide anyway. But my question, and I think I mentioned it on Rags to Riches made a post the other day and was kind of pushing this as well. And I said, well, don't you think we kind of need a better effort so that people are filling out these forms the same way? Because when you actually look at it, let's actually click on the link here. We'll just go to the
Don't do the Binance. Yeah, I was going to say the Binance one is way too convoluted and
right.
way too much unnecessary information. And as you pulled it up, I do just want to say, because I said about the MEXC thing and not knowing where that was at a moment ago, I do see Crypto Coffee is one of the top replies on RH's tweet, and he said MEXC coming soon. So that's still happening, and I know they pretty much raised all the money for it, so it looks like that's still going on.
Right, and that was kind of done by the PulseChain Foundation, one of the two PulseChain foundations. I know there's still a little animosity from that out there between the two of them, but whatever. As long as they're doing stuff to promote the blockchain. I don't think it really matters, but either way. So you've got, the issuer, you got your name, email, Telegram, title, company. Well, a lot of this stuff, there is no company. Address of company and corporation. Well, there isn't one of those either.
Right.
Executive and non-executive beneficial owners. Well, who would that be? Again, there's a lot of, and these are required. The ones that are starred are required fields that have to be filled out. You got your asset name, ticker, fine, network, fine, token standard, okay, all that good. All that stuff is fine. You go the whole way down. I think, yeah, all of this
It
stuff
has
is
some
pretty
non-applicable stuff at the bottom. Sorry.
right. There is like the e-money, but you can pick no for that. It's not e-money or a digital representative fiat, so it's not like a stable coin or anything like that. So these are pretty self-explanatory. However, the upper part, I think there could be a lot of question, and it may not look very good if a bunch of people are filling it out differently for the same token and be like, well, these guys are all over the place, with their answers. I don't know how much that gets judged. You know what I mean? But again, I think we wanted to kind of be on the same page when we're all filling this stuff out.
Well, I think that is a nice thought, but I think it's going to be very hard. I mean, with this fervent community and stuff, I don't think that it's going to be so easy to get people like to be submitting a uniform thing. I mean, like what I basically did for the company and all that stuff was just put like NA. I'm like, this isn't applicable to this. There is no
Fair
company.
enough.
It's not. So I mean, I don't know what people. To me, it would be worse if you tried to put anything other than just something like that, because it's like, to me, it's like, okay, it's PulseChain. It's a layer one. What is the function of the Pulse token? It is the gas token on the Pulse blockchain. Like those are the pertinent things on that form that need to be filled out. That people are very familiar with all that lingo already in crypto. So I think as long as you kind of go about it that way, and then the token standard, I put like PRC20 whenever it asked about that, because it has like a drop down of ERCs and all that stuff. So
Right.
I think if you get that general stuff, I think you're pretty much fine. I just would be careful about trying to put in something weird or outside of that. But
right. Either way,
but
it's a good effort, I think. And I think it can't hurt, right? I mean, eventually we're going to need on ramps. We're going to need easier ways to get people over here. And if they can buy it directly on a centralized exchange, all the better. That's one of the things that we've always said is when it's hard to buy, that's opportunity. Hex was the same way. You couldn't get it on exchanges, and it still did a 10,000x. You know what I mean? So those are opportunities. Obviously that 10,000x is looking like it's way, way on the horizon now. But again, it leads to more opportunity, I think, when these things are difficult. But again, we want it kind of, we've always been under the impression where we kind of want it now.
right.
So one of the only ways to do that is to get it out there, to get it listed on exchanges, to get it once it's listed on an exchange like Kraken, maybe CoinMarketCap looks at it and ranks it properly. And I think it's one of the reasons, it's one of the stipulations that they have, that we don't meet that criteria. And it's one of the reasons why they claim that it isn't. But, if you can meet all that criteria and then they still don't, well, then, then we have a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So.
I think a Kraken listing, look, and I know you and I were talking about like which token did you fill one out for? I mean, I did Pulse right away. I mean, to me, the big thing would be to get Pulse listed on an exchange like that. And I am in favor of it. I just put that up a minute ago. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I didn't know if you saw it or not. But I think getting Pulse up there is huge. Now, my thing is, and I dealt with this last cycle with Phantom when I was buying that, which is now being rebranded as Sonic or something. I don't know what's happening there.
Okay.
But Kraken was cool enough to have native Phantom on their platform. So like you could buy Phantom, you could send it to a Phantom wallet, and it would go on the Phantom blockchain. Everybody else had like wrapped Phantom. Everybody else had like the Phantom ERC20 copy. So what would be interesting to me, is if Pulse got listed, if it was native Pulse, so they could send it, because that's a big thing. You go to Coinbase. I was listening to somebody talk about this the other day. If you send like USDC on Coinbase or like something on Coinbase, you've got Ethereum as an option, Arbitrum or Arbitrum One, whatever else you guys know, Solana, whatever, all these different blockchains. And if you buy Pulse on there, I mean, I guess having to buy wrapped Pulse and then send it and still bridge it is something. Like at least that's available on the exchange. But I really it would be really nice if it was native Pulse that they could send straight to a Pulse wallet. Because that's what you want. You want people coming over with a gas token like ready to go. And it'd be lovely to have a Pulse X or a Hex or an Ink listing too. But if we're choosing, I mean, for me, Pulse is the one that I would want to be listed. So what do you make of that idea? Though?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If it's native, sure. Now the good thing about wrapped Pulse is when you send it over the bridge, it obviously will unwrap it for you and it becomes unwrapped. However, it's an extra fee that you shouldn't have to spend with the Ethereum fee to send it over. So it would be a huge cost savings for users knowing how cheap it is. Now, I've heard about people when they list things, obviously they have to also keep an updated node under their control as well. So for every coin that they have on its own blockchain, they have to run a node for it essentially in their database itself. So they have to keep a record of it too, and anything new that they add is going to take work for them to keep it updated, get it to sync, all that stuff. So it does take time, and some, when upgrades happen, they have to do whatever they have to do as well. So it's not just a matter of just let's launch it. They have to get the node on their side as well and do that type of thing, especially for a different blockchain.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and you're right. It would unwrap the Pulse automatically, but yeah, that's what I was saying. It's just to save another step and money. Alaska Fisherman again, which thanks to your contributions tonight, I haven't seen you before, but good stuff. I've tried explaining to people on how to buy Pulse, and they are steered away because it's quote too complicated with too many steps. That's something that's not bearish, really. You know what I mean? Like Ewok said a moment ago. I mean, like when things are difficult to buy, that's when we're still an opportunity. And I right here am one of the people that when Hex was prior to Hex launch, when I wasn't as into crypto, I knew ancillary things. I knew how to buy tokens on exchanges and stuff. Wasn't as familiar with DeFi, but Ewok was explaining things to me, and I couldn't put it together. And that was just Hex. So, I mean, I don't know if this is really that much harder, but yeah, you have to have, if you have somebody who's already like open to crypto, understands exchanges, understand wallets, it's really DeFi that's the next step, and we just happen to be in like one of the most DeFi style platforms there is to be in,
Right,
so
right.
I get where you're coming from, and kudos to you for trying to help those people for sure. But yeah, I do think something like having Pulse on at least one of those bigger exchanges would really help. And maybe that was Richard's thought, like when he kind of just trashed the idea, presumably of MEXC, like you said, Ewok, because it's just who's on MEXC, who had really known as much about MEXC.
Right.
Kraken's I mean, that's like a big three in the United States. Yeah.
Yep. Or big, anyway, top 5 at least.
Yeah.
With Coinbase, you've got Crypto.com, you've got Gemini. Definitely Kraken is in the picture of the top 5. So, Alaska Fisherman, I will say to you, and keep talking to them about it, okay? Let them know what we just said is yes. It's opportunity. Let them understand that is like, this is brand new. I mean, we just crossed a year. And that whole first year was somewhat down, but Explain about all the things that are building on it. Explain about the different communities that have grown. It's kind of like when Ethereum started, there wasn't already a pre-made community that kind of came in. You had some defectors from Bitcoin and things like that went over because they didn't like what was happening. But all the stuff that's being built and it's still being difficult to get to means a lot of VCs and big money investors haven't heard about it yet, or it isn't tried and tested enough for them to get major investments in. But as time goes on and this blockchain keeps going, it's going to grow. It's going to gain more faith. It's going to get belief, and things will become easier. It's one of the ways that I've explained to people too is, again, the opportunity cost of being difficult means you are damn near ground floor, and we are as far as prices go too.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. So that is a good thing to let them know, like that is the opportunity basically. So yeah, I mean, I do think that it will help to have an exchange listing, at least for Pulse, just to get people in the door. You don't need to teach, once they get to things onto a DEX like PulseX or Proteus, I mean, that's a whole other thing that they have to understand and get to 9mm, 9-inch, whatever. So,
Yep.
oh, and yeah, Hex Girl, great on you for bringing that up since we're talking about onboarding. I didn't see the actual Coast account tweet this, but did you see Crypto Coffee talking about some Coast updates yesterday, Ewok?
I missed it yesterday. What did he say?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it updates, but it sounds like we're talking August, September timeframe until they're up and running again. That's what I think Coffee said on a site. It was like a 45-minute stream yesterday.
That seems like a long time.
That's what I saw, and I checked the actual 0x Coast account, and I couldn't really see any of that, but it does look like it's going to be a bit. So you're right, Hex Girl. They were, I know, one of Ewok's. Yeah, there's no real tweets from them. They were one of Ewok's preferred ways to go, and a very easy way to do it. But we have been without them for a little while. So. Yeah. We have, of course, on this channel talked about, that you got the regular PulseChain bridge, which is just available at pulsechain.com. That's been the cheapest option because this Gwei, I mean, even with ETH just shooting up in price, we're sitting at 6 Gwei right now, 6 or 8 Gwei right now. So you're looking at under $10 to bridge at the moment on the PulseChain bridge. And then you've got Spark Swap as well. Be careful. That hasn't been as long as Gwei is down this low, you're better off with the actual PulseChain bridge as far as I've seen. But so there are ways to do it. We'll see how the exchange thing goes. But do you have any kind of final thoughts on that, Ewok?
No, that about wraps it up for that topic anyway.
Okay. Good stuff. Just so many comments that I'm really intrigued by here. So okay, so good stuff. We will transition onto this. If you guys are enjoying the stream, do us a favor, hit the like. We appreciate you being here. And yeah, Hex Girl says on Telegram, Coast said they have new bankers just integrating now. Yeah, we knew that they were getting, like over 10 new bankers, and maybe, that is a bigger undertaking than they originally thought, possibly. But if it does lead to, not having any issues that they were with only like one before, then that will be helpful. So,
right.
I wanted to turn our attention to this Bloomberg article that we saw last week. So Bloomberg wrote an article actually on the Richard Hart PulseChain versus the corrupt, decaying, and about to be reformed or eliminated SEC. So it was interesting for Bloomberg, I think, to actually write this article. It was a guy named Matthew Boltman. Crypto case tests SEC's ability to police blockchain technology. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, obviously. Actually, it's not even very long, or they're trying to get me to pay for it or something. I don't know. But I did just DM it to you, Ewok, if you wanted to show it. But essentially, looking at it, they kind of just talk about the overall angles of the case, which everybody's very familiar with. And an interesting part is when they say you can't sue the sidewalk. Financial regulators have increasingly set their sights on decentralized finance, or DeFi. Not just PulseChain, all DeFi. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission brought enforcement actions in September against 3 DeFi firms and signaled more may be coming. The SEC is also investigating Uniswap. Forgot about that. There's so many out there. I can't remember any of them anymore. The creator of the largest DeFi trading platform on Ethereum for securities law violations. So any of these people who's like, oh, it's Richard Hart and, the diamond and you can tell this guy's a scammer. Dude, they are after everybody. Like they are after everybody. You can be, the woke leader of Uniswap, or you can be, Red Bull can Richard Hart. I mean, they're going after you. The nature of the technology poses tricky questions, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know. So much of it is the fact that it could be a security, it could be a currency, and then it could be an entity, and makes it confusing and hard to get your arms around, says a guy from SMU University. Blah, blah, blah. And then they quote Richard's attorneys: suing computer software is bizarre, and the SEC's legal theories are novel and unsupported. PulseChain users said in a filing last month. You can't sue the sidewalk or a piece of software, users said in a brief. So, I mean, this is really all the issues that we're very familiar with. And they're just kind of, this article is more for people who are not familiar with the SEC's continued overreach, which, they've been ruled as overreaching by a prominent Utah judge, and I forget the debt box case, I think it was. He specifically said that they, overreach. I forget the exact term he used. But it's interesting that they wrote that article, and I guess we'll get your thoughts on that. I guess it's not necessarily anything new other than the fact that they themselves wrote the article, which I thought was interesting. And then we got an interesting layout from Nuclear Herbs, our favorite PulseChain attorney on Twitter, who hope he's doing okay. I know he's had some major health issues, so I hope he is recovering here. But he wrote a nice little timeline for us about what we could see from Richard Hart and possibly when he would stream again. First off, do you have any thoughts on this article being written, or did anything in it catch your eye?
Well, not really, but you do have to remember that the guy that created Tornado Cash is just found guilty and probably spending 6 or 7 years in jail for writing code of software. I mean, where do you draw the line? Is it the guy who wrote the code? Is it the guy who paid the people to write the code? Is it I think you could almost make a case for any of those things. Yes, you can't sue software, but you can sue apparently the guy who wrote the code, or throw that guy in jail. So because they've already done it once. Now that was for, they said it was used for money laundering, which is a little bit different than just creating a blockchain technology. So, we are talking apples and oranges here, not the same thing. But, I guess it really depends on the judge's take on cryptocurrency as a whole. I guess it could go one way or another, right? Kind of depends on who's on your side. And, as we're seeing with a certain case happening in New York City right now, these people can be bought off, unfortunately. Right. And, there are so many glaringly wrong things about the way that case is going that should be thrown out a long time ago. Anyway, that's another topic. That's all I really wanted to add. It is, I guess it really depends on, who's behind who's the judge behind the gavel, and what it really comes down to. Yes, we have a pretty good team of lawyers, so I will give that an advantage. So hopefully that's on our side.
I think so too. Yeah. They're obviously very prepared, and we have, there's people on that team that have worked within the SEC or right with the SEC before. So that's also good as well. And we do know that the SEC generally is not prepared for any of these cases. I mean, we've covered it, said it at length. It's kind of just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks. And so far, not very much has been sticking. I mean, they even lost to Ripple XRP, which is, if there's anything in the top 1,000 cryptocurrencies that could be a security, it would be the XRP token. So, and they lost that lawsuit. So, and appealed it and lost the appeal, and, fell flat on their face. So, now what perhaps may be more interesting to people watching here, I did just have this up and I lost it. I know you have it up already. So we're going to look at Nuclear Herbs, again, our favorite attorney on Twitter. And he had some thoughts about potentially a timeline for this case, more so about like Richard Hart streaming again. Now, that's something that you and I mean, sure, I would welcome it. It would be cool to see that. I haven't, you and I, neither of us really have been one of those that are like clamoring for it. And like, we will only be able to go up when Richard Hart is streaming. I mean, we haven't said that. And
No.
You and I mean, candidly, just talking to everybody here, we are grossed out when we see the people like, can Richard do something about the price? Where's Richard? We are not that. So, we understand that this is a blockchain. And I mean, part of the decentralization is like, we have our own validators out there. We have everybody doing their own work. So not looking for Richard to really do anything here. But that said, sure, definitely would love to see him stream again. Would love to see him out there being interviewed like he was in the Hex days and, talking about it to other people, just like with PulseChain. So Nuclear Herb says he was responding to Sami and he gave a synopsis. He said, let me start by saying I have no idea what advice Richard is getting, but you can expect it to be both A, really good, and B, really expensive. As we all know, it's not like Richard to keep quiet. So if he's doing so, you can reasonably assume that he's acting in accordance with advice from legal counsel. I can't think of another explanation that makes sense. Me, I used to tell every client in active litigation to shut up until the case was over, period. Don't talk to your friends, mom, dad, cousin, or dog, and especially not your girlfriend, boyfriend, who may wind up hating you before the case is resolved in a few years. Don't put anything in an email you don't want to read to a jury. Don't text anything about the case to anyone. Don't ever forward an email from your attorney to anyone because it destroys attorney-client privilege. Also, you never know who's at the next table at the bar. Hey, it could be James O'Keefe in a wig or something like that, or a restaurant listening to you complain about your case, and it could be an investigator hired by the other side. Nothing you say to anyone beside your attorney or spouse in most cases is privileged, so either you or whoever you spoke to or both could be subpoenaed to testify under oath at deposition or a trial. Having your best friend subpoenaed to testify against you isn't going to be fun time for either of you. Jeez, he really went in on this. Keep in mind that you can usually only hurt yourself by talking. It's like being drunk and trying to explain yourself to a cop. That makes sense. Let me skip ahead here a bit. So there are lots and lots of fun ways to F yourself in litigation. And even though your lawyer will make far more money trying to fix whatever problem you created, they would still prefer not to have to. Lawyers manage risk. If you boil down our profession, it comes down to that. We manage risk through contracts, prenups, estate plans, corporate bylaws. Clients, on the other hand, create the risk we have to manage. If you keep your client from adding to the risk you have to manage, everyone's happy. So why do some founders keep streaming while Richard stays silent? I have some ideas, but I don't particularly want to share them until after some of the issues in his motion to dismiss are decided, particularly the jurisdictional arguments, given the sometimes ludicrous things judges have relied on to grab jurisdiction over someone, not just in crypto cases, but in many other types. It seems like a solid plan for Richard to not add anything that could even potentially be used against him. That said, jurisdiction will be argued in October. A decision should be out 60 to 90 days after that. Could be earlier, could be later, but that's what I would tell everyone to expect. If the court finds no jurisdiction over Richard, the case is gone and he could do as he wants. So we're looking, by like January 2025, if they would rule against jurisdiction, which, Nuclear Herbs and other credible people have said they have a pretty damn good argument. PulseChain does about jurisdiction. If the court finds that it has jurisdiction over Richard, that issue is decided for the remainder of the case, barring some other stuff. So if he is getting advice to stay quiet pending the outcome of that issue, his attorneys may feel like there's less of a problem with him streaming. That's interesting. He says, just my thoughts. I could be wrong, not legal advice, obviously, all that. So great stuff from Nuclear Herbs. We wish him well. Thank him for this. I didn't really notice that last part before, that they said, even if the jurisdiction were to not go the way of Richard's attorneys, even though we think that there's a great argument against the SEC there, it sounds like that there may be less reason for him to stay quiet or anything. It sounds like, and he could still stream. So
that's what it sounds like to me. That's kind of the way he worded it. If it's dropped, it's dropped, and he'll stream. If it's not dropped and they do find that they do have jurisdiction, he'll still stream. So maybe that's kind of the way I understood that.
Me too. Obviously, a total dismissal with a jurisdiction thing is phenomenal. I mean, that's what
Yeah,
everybody's
absolutely.
clamoring for. And the reason that we say that it's a worthwhile argument, we've talked about this many times before, is that they wanted it in the southern, I think it's the Southern District in New York, because that's where they put everything.
Mhm.
And their
Yeah.
reasoning was literally like at least one developer of Uniswap lives there, and at least one investor in PulseChain or Hex.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, okay, that may be true. As I always make the joke of like Omaha, Nebraska too. Why does it have to be there? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't think they have a good argument there. That is the ideal scenario, that we find out by January 2025 that this just gets dismissed because of jurisdiction. If not, obviously everybody's confident. Nobody's concerned about the SEC. I mean, like nobody at this point. You know, I think it was cleared up a little bit when Richard announced, like, "Hey, I've got a team of 11 lawyers, and we're fighting for DeFi, and we're going to, take down the SEC." Since nobody's concerned about it. Nobody's concerned about it in the world of crypto, and I can tell you that because everybody's using Uniswap every single day. We even have the bankless estrogen boys every day, fawning over Uniswap and stuff like that. Nobody's worried about the SEC, and Uniswap's is under attack as PulseChain is by the SEC.
Yep.
So, if they're not worried about it, there's no reason we should be worried about it. So yeah, what do you make of all that? And about the jurisdiction argument? And yeah, it sounds like possibly he could get back to streaming, maybe even if the case was continuing and for some reason they still kept said that they had jurisdiction.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. Again, you or I aren't one of the ones that say, man, this will never go up until he starts streaming again. He's been active. He could have completely disappeared. He could have stopped tweeting, and he didn't. So, I mean, that's one way to look at it. He'll be back when he can be back. I don't think, he's always kind of said, Satoshi disappeared and I'm still here fighting for you guys. So, the moment he can, he will. The moment he deems it right, he will. He may still be trying to wash out people that don't believe. That could be part of it too. Maybe his lawyers said, yeah, go ahead, stream. It's not a big deal. Is just be careful what you say.
Right.
Richard's always been very careful how he worded things. That's one of the things that I will give him credit for, is he's always worded things properly. He planned for a lot of that stuff ahead. He was always very careful about price predictions. He wouldn't do it. He would say how things were designed and how many X's they were designed to do, but he would never give a price prediction of what he thought it would do. He could give price predictions of Bitcoin and Ethereum, but not his own stuff. So again, he's always been very careful of the way he spoke. And maybe it's on his decision to not stream. Maybe he's still trying to wash people out, rinse them, get rid of the lettuce hands. And maybe they said it's perfectly fine. So I don't know. That's just another thought that you guys need to think about, is maybe it's not lawyers. Maybe it's him. Maybe he is not ready for the bull market to start yet. So he does have good timing. He does have good timing.
Yeah, and I will say, like, we got that Christmas, not stream, but video upload from him, the end of last year, which, I don't know how advised maybe that would have been, but he was just kind of giving his overall thoughts on things. He did say a couple saucy things, though, on that even that were pretty interesting. And that was even before the announcement of the team of lawyers and stuff. Now, I'm sure he already had them ready to go, but we didn't.
Right.
Nobody else knew about it yet. So,
right.
Either way, I mean, there's no concern from either of us with the SEC really against literally anything in crypto that they're trying to do right now. So I don't think anybody takes them seriously. And, the bull market's starting. We get this news with the ETH ETF. We're seeing the Dems flip and support this stuff out with Gary Gensler. I mean, we're just in bullish times now. These are the things that happen in bullish times,
Yep.
And it's the opposite.
Yeah, and that could be another bullish thing too that happens if the election, and the whole changing of the guards as far as the SEC goes. You get different people appointed, you get all that different things. Maybe that timing, well, it'll be October, so it would be right before that happens. Be interesting to have that pushed back a couple weeks, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it would. Yeah. So we'll see. I forget what day that is in October. But I think it's towards the end of the month.
26th, I believe
Yeah.
26th or 29th or something like that.
Yeah. It's towards the end of the month. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is towards the end of the month. Yeah. Okay. So good stuff there. And again, really appreciate Nuclear Herbs giving that info, especially with what he's going through right now. And really valuable stuff. I want to shout out Honda Trump AI here. Orange Man Good, OMG on PulseChain, Richard Hart to the moon. Orange Man Good is sending one of the Tang Gang tokens. And I'm not going to lie, I was looking at that prior to it pumping and just thinking to myself like a, Trump narrative and stuff like that. And I didn't bite. And sure enough, it went to the moon. And I missed it. So I've been waiting for a pullback of at least like 30%. We haven't even sniffed anywhere near that yet. So kudos to you, Honda Trump AI, if you did get into it. And also, speaking of the Tang Gang, he said Florida Fruit Rat sent today. I ain't getting a thing either, only buying dips like RH said. Legend. Yeah. I own both those. Took a little wee bit of profits, but I'm still holding those. And they did send today partially. They went up like 3, 4, 5x in a day. And I think it's because of Too Spooky launched that pizza token and tied the liquidity with those two tokens. So very interesting stuff. So yeah, check out the Tang Gang. I am a fan of the Tang Gang. I'll let Ewok say whether he is or not. I think he's dabbled a little bit, but I know DJ Moonboy, big time Tang Gang guy too. So yeah.
Listen, I give all these different communities their credit, man. They put in a lot of work. They spend the time making memes. You've got the HOA guys, you've got the Solid X guys, you've got the Atropa group. So there's so many different little circles out there doing the work, and that's what makes the blockchain run, right? I mean, we're all in favor of PulseChain doing well. It's no longer we just have one token. We don't just have Hex anymore. We've got a whole ecosystem. That doesn't mean you have to buy every single coin that comes out. But we want them all to do well. We don't want, and so far, the one thing we haven't seen is, knock on wood, but a ton of scammers. I mean, there's coins that have been better than others, liquidity that was tied better to others. But I haven't seen very many just flat out rug pulls. And that is one thing that I can say about this community is they've been sniffed out rather quickly, and people have been warned right away. So, we kind of know who the bad actors are. And there was a whole group out there saying, hey, this is from the same people, don't buy it. Same people, don't buy it. And sure enough, it rug pulled within a week. So,
you saying that, you're so right. And I was racking my brain trying to think of a legit rug pull, and Beetroot was the only one I could think of. And that was a legit product. Like that was an actual product. And it did rug. But yeah, hey, Honda Trump, thanks for the super sticker, $1.99 Canadian. We appreciate that. Speaking of a guy who does buy every single token, DJ Moonboy, he's out there DJing every single day. Yeah. So yeah, I have a good portion of Tang Gang tokens. I'm not ashamed to say it. So, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, good stuff. I said. That's all.
I was going to say we can wrap up on a Monect initiative update if you happen to have anything current. I know we wanted to kind of just touch on that again. If any of you are new to what Monect is, it is the social media app. I guess you would call it social media, or basically a way to talk to influencers or experts in different fields, ask them audio or video questions, and get an audio or video answer back from them privately. It's kind of like OnlyFans. No, just kidding. Not as much foot stuff. But yeah, so it's developed by Patrick Bet-David, I believe he developed it. But yeah, him and Valuetainment and all of his companies. He has a contest running right now. The Brandon Davis Rags to Riches, Gary Woods Funding Gym, and brother KG from Internet Money Wallet, who we were going to have on tonight, hopefully very, very soon. All are on there dominating. I was listening, oddly enough, just because I wanted to listen to it, the latest PBD podcast today. And they talked about the Monect contest right up front and mentioned Brandon was on top on his podcast. I mean, this is a top, I believe, 20-ish podcast in the world. If you go on the Spotify rankings. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was going to say top 10. I don't think it's quite there, but top 25 or so. And, you know, I mean, we have 3 PulseChain centric dudes up there. So
all in a row, number 5, number 6, and number 7 right now, currently.
So Brandon must have just fell. He was number 1 when I heard the show today. I thought that's what they said anyway.
Unless this hasn't been, I mean, I don't know what's going on, but you know, Brandon is 6,
Okay.
KG is 5, and Gary is 7. So I mean, these guys are all, I hate to say it, they're all battling each other to get up into that top 3. Davis Thurber has got 206. Santino has 198. Dr. Hedar has 192. And then, like I said, that's in number 3. And then KG 162. Rags has 157, and Gary has 147. So, yeah, they're kind of falling out. These guys are starting to run away with it. I do believe. What do we got? 8 days contest.
I think it's the end of the month, right?
30. Yes, May 31st is the last day, I believe, for the contest. So, you know, that's what the 31st would be, next Friday. So,
yes, correct.
If you have any questions that you can ask one of these, I think it costs you $10 to support them. But if you have $10 and you can support one of these guys to ask them a question, they will respond. You know, make it business related, business question, or what, you know. Gary is very good at that type of stuff, like investment advice, real estate investments. You know, they all have their own specialty. So again, it costs you $10 to support them. You do have to download the app, go in there, ask your question, pay your $10, and they should get you an answer. So I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a great initiative. Like I said last week, how to get these guys in front of some big name people, possibly get them a dinner. And yeah, I just, you know, Gary reached out to each of us, actually, thanking us that we talked about it last week. So, you know, wanted to give another shout out to all these guys that are doing the work for everybody, because eventually, you know, this can help us all. So kudos to these guys.
Definitely. And, you know, you were saying about like they're all competing, you know, or are they taking, you know, add all those up and they're number 1 or whatever. I mean, not that you said that, but I mean, I think that there's 3 people in the top 10 that are all crypto PulseChain centric, you know what I mean? And Gary obviously offers a lot of networking stuff as well. It's actually what he's choosing to be more of an expert at, as he's dubbing himself on there. So, yeah, I think this is terrific. It's awesome. It's a gigantic platform, not just the app, but I mean the platform of being featured on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. Winner gets to have candlelit dinner with him. I think they get to go take a walk on the beach afterwards, maybe go to a movie. Not quite, but yeah, a lot of good stuff. Yeah. But look out for Monect. I mean, very, very cool stuff. I think it's a great development by them. And yeah, shout out to those guys. I mean, that's putting in the real work to go down. They went to Mar-a-Lago a couple of weeks ago. Rags and Gary did. KG, obviously extremely knowledgeable guy, created, you know, a great wallet for PulseChain.
Cabana was there too, by the way. Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't see that. No, I didn't. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I know B Roots and Ian were there. A lot of our boys made it down there. And Trump, of course, talking a lot of crypto. So very good stuff. Cool. Do you have any final thoughts on Monect? I mean, it's definitely super bullish overall.
No. Like I said, I just, you know, kudos to them for doing the work and putting in the time. Appreciate it.
Definitely do. Yeah, we thank those guys, and I want to give, you know, not that they need it from us, but I mean, I want to shout out a couple people actually. So Corey, Gary, and Dane, 2 other guys that do like amazing outreach. You know, they have huge real estate circles. They talk at these big events that they pay thousands of dollars to participate in, like mastermind groups, and they're talking crypto and PulseChain in there. I mean, that I think when I look at guys doing stuff like that, I feel like it puts even what we do to shame. And I am proud of what we do, you know, and anybody I think that is having the influence that we're doing, and we're out here talking about it and trying to create a network. But those guys getting on stages and stuff like that, and I'm glad that they have the time and resources to do all that stuff, I think is absolutely terrific. So anybody that's doing that stuff, we all really, really appreciate it. And also, I wanted to shout out Frank Molina, friend of the show. We've had him on twice, right? And I know we've both talked about this. I mean, he's been one of our favorite guests. Just launched his own channel called the DeFi Capital, like DeFi Capital channel. Check it out. He got 200 subs within a day or something like that. I love it because he's good at like long form stuff, long-term mindset and everything. It's not stuff that you're going to find on a lot of crypto channels, like clickbaity meme coin stuff. It's not quite that. It's more long-term thinking. And I really, really hope you guys find him and support him because he's a great dude that we've had on a couple times. So just want to shout that out too.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else to shout out. I mean, I know there's plenty of people that put in the work, and it wouldn't be the same without however many 200 channels I know at least,
right?
That are out there regularly. So just glad to be a part of it, and
I wanted to bring one more attention to Honda Trump AI. He says Aave PulseChain Network sent the other day too. Yeah, some PRC20 copies of ERC20 tokens have been doing some really weird things the last couple of days. I tweeted about P-Link, which I've held a bag of for a while now. It pumped to 15 cents out of the blue the other day. It already had been pumping up to about 4 or 5 cents, which was kind of the top of its previous range, and randomly just popped up to 15 cents. And it's corrected since then. But we are seeing something happen with some PulseChain copies. And I'll tell you what, we already have the PDI thing happening. Now we have this. We didn't even talk about this tonight, and it's too late to get into it now. But the LUSD popping off as well now. Aave has been moving. P-Link has been moving. P-Cult I saw was moving a little bit today. And I think that there's another one I may have missed.
Somebody in the chat brought that up earlier about the LUSD.
Yeah.
As well. I can't remember who it was, but I saw it. I think it was more Hex. Yeah, here it is. Thoughts on the LUSD stablecoin. So,
yeah, I think that we don't have much more time, but that dedicates a segment, I think. And, we've just kind of been hearing about it over the last couple of days. Yeah,
we definitely need to set aside some time to talk about all these copies and what they are and how many of them have the potential. I mean, any of them have the potential, right? If that community decides to come over and says, hey, we're going to kind of take this over and go pump that coin, we all hold bags of it because it was a free copy for them. They're all kind of benefited to do that. So could be quite interesting when things really start to pop off.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a good idea for next week. We'll maybe get a few of them together and take a look at what they've been doing and what we could see from them. Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, well, hey, I think that about wraps it up. Awesome chat once again tonight. Really appreciative of all you guys. DJ Moonboy, KD, Honda Trump AI, and a lot of new names. I hadn't heard of you, Honda Trump AI, but like you, C-Hex, My Pulse, Take a Break with Jake, of course, Alaska Fisherman, thank you, Ravi Sharma, Hex Girl, Harvey Diaz, so many of you guys tonight, KD. Yeah, really appreciate all you guys. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do us a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. We do this, I already said that, every Wednesday at 6:30. And we'll see you again next week. There you go. Pick up a t-shirt, creativecrypto.com. You can pick up our merch. We have tri-blend tees, probably feel the best. The cotton, whatever feels good on your nips, whatever floats your boat in that regard. But yeah, we got a Creative Crypto one, a Hex one, a Pulse Hex one, a PulseChain one. PulseChain's my personal favorite. It says Real DeFi, looks real cool. So check those out. We got them linked down there as well. But we will catch you guys next week right here on the Creed of Crypto live stream. Take it easy, guys.